Did you watch the original Tim Burton Batman movie and thought, I'm enjoying this, but you know what this movie needs? More fucking weird Tim Burton shit. Well, I've got good news for you, because there was a sequel, and boy does it have weird Burton shit in spades. That's right, we're taking a look at Tim Burton's When did this film come out? Tim Burton's 1992 movie Batman Returns, the film that had both a line about the Penguin wanting to finger a woman with his flipper and a series of Happy Meal toys. Yeah, let that sink in. Anyway, let's get stuck in, because if you had questions like who appeared on live TV dressed as Catwoman to call out Tim Burton, what famous Batman characters never made it to the final film, and where can I get tickets to see the sick DJ skills of Bruce Wayne and Alfred live? Anyway, we got the answers for ya. Oh, would you look at that? It's number 1. So, Batman Returns is the sequel to the 1989 film Batman, and just like the first film, Returns is directed by Tim Burton and stars Michael Keaton as Batman. Joining the cast is Danny DeVito as the villain known as the Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and Christopher Walken as the classic comic book character Max Shrek. That classic comic book character. The film follows both Batman as he continues his crime-fighting career, Selina Kyle as she transforms into her alter ego, Catwoman, and Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, as he plans to do, something. I don't know, run for mayor? Frame Batman? Send out an army of armed penguins? Look, I'll be honest, the plot's fucking mental in this one. There's a lot going on here. This marks both the second time Michael Keaton played the role of Batman / Bruce Wayne, and the second time director Tim Burton directed a Batman movie. Interestingly enough, this would also be the last time either men would be involved in a Batman motion picture to date. It's number 2. Batman 1989 was a huge success, and Warner Brothers wanted to cash in on that success further by releasing a sequel as soon as possible. Screenwriter and comic book writer Sam Hann returned to create the story for the second film, which included Penguin and Catwoman going after some hidden treasure. Despite originally not wanting to return, Tim Burton eventually accepted the project but was unhappy with Ham's original script, and instead asked screenwriter Daniel Waters, who had worked on films such as Heathers, to rewrite the script for this film. Waters' story featured an evil mogul backing a bid for the mayor's office by the Penguin. The character of Harvey Dent would return in this movie, having a much larger role than he did in the first. His transformation into the disfigured villain Two-Face would have arrived at the climax of the film, when Catwoman kisses him with a taser. That whole plotline would eventually be replaced with Max Shrek, and the character of Harvey Dent was removed from the film's story entirely. Although many of the plot points Waters created made it to the final film, another screenwriter was hired to make further uncredited rewrites. Screenwriter Wesley Strick was the guy that they hired. His main goal was to rewrite the character of the Penguin, as the current version had no real master plan. Ooh, it's number 3. The film's original few scripts also had the character of Robin, who would start out as a young gang member and eventually becomes an ally of Batman. Robin was then changed to be a young black teenage mechanic who would be wearing overalls with the letter R stenciled in. Robin would have also at one point driven the Batmobile. Marlon Wayans was even cast as the role of Robin and signed onto the film. Wayans even had a costume fitting, but at a certain point during pre-production, the decision was made to remove the character entirely from the story, as it was felt that there were too many characters in the film already, with screenwriter Daniel Waters stating that Robin was one of the most worthless characters in the world, especially with Batman being the loner of loners. Damn, fucking firing shots at Robin over here. The character of Robin would make his appearance in the third film, but his origins would be changed to fit more in line with his comic book counterpart, and Marlon Wayans would not be playing him, instead being replaced by Chris O'Donnell. Oh, number 4. While in pre-production, actress Sean Young of Blade Runner fame and various other films heard about the project of Batman 2, as it was known at the time, and the inclusion of the character of Catwoman. Young was originally cast as Vicky Vale in the first film, before she sustained an accident during an audition, forcing her to leave the project and Kim Basinger being cast instead. When she heard that the character of Catwoman was to be featured in the sequel, Young strongly believed that she should be cast in the role, but when she was not contacted about the part, Young created her own Catwoman costume and paid a visit to the Warner Brothers studio lot in the hopes to convince Tim Burton that she was perfect for the role.
I thought that it would work to be sort of like aggressive in the sense that that's what Catwoman would have done. She would have just gone, and she would have gone in there, and that's just what I did. I did like a major kind of Catwoman adventure.
However, Young had no luck in being able to have a meeting with Burton, but that didn't stop her. Sean Young, with her self-constructed Catwoman outfit, appeared on television on the Joan Rivers show in 1991 and made a public address to Tim Burton about avoiding her and not casting her in the role.
I have a message for the director of Batman 2. How dare you not make time to see the Catwoman, not even so much as granting me a meeting. Business is business, and doing good business means that you return your phone calls. It's a pretty simple formula, Timmy. Have I ever been anything except professional with you? Have I badmouthed you? Did I show up late for rehearsals or something?
The speech was intended to be somewhat comedic as it was done in the campy 1960s style of Batman, but there was also a true intent with her speech, as Young felt angry about being left out of the project and ignored. By this time, actress Michelle Pfeiffer had already been cast in the role. I got 5 on it. Oh, copyright strike. So, good old Danny DeVito plays the Penguin in this movie. When writing the part of the Penguin, screenwriter Daniel Waters had Danny DeVito already in mind for the role. Jack Nicholson, who had played the Joker in the previous film, advised DeVito on taking the role based on Nicholson's own financial success, because that man made bank on that last movie. Legendary effects designer Stan Winston was hired to work on the Penguin's prosthetic makeup after having previously worked with Tim Burton on the film Edward Scissorhands. The makeup took roughly 2 hours to apply each time. DeVito also had to have a combination of mouthwash and red and green food coloring in his mouth to create the weird ooze shit that comes out of his mouth at one point. The decision to make the Penguin look deformed was based on some comic book interpretations of him drawn by such comic book artists as Tim Sale.
Oh, don't believe it, it's number 6.
Apparently, the costumes in this movie were fucking unbearable to wear. Danny DeVito's costume was incredibly uncomfortable to wear, though DeVito used this to help him get into character. Michelle Pfeiffer's costume was even worse. The initial design of the outfit was designed by Burton himself, who wanted the costume to resemble a stuffed cat with the stitches coming apart. The costume itself was extremely tight, very difficult to put on, and was created around a full body cast of Pfeiffer so that it would fit her body exactly. In fact, it was so tight that Michelle Pfeiffer had to be covered in talcum powder in order to be able to slip into the outfit. Pfeiffer would often have to wear the outfit between 12 to 14 hours per day, with the only exception being lunchtime, in which she was able to have it removed. This was also the only time she could use the bathroom when on shoot. More than 60 of these latex catsuits were created for the shoot, costing $1,000 each. In fact, it seems the only costume that wasn't as bad as the rest was the Batsuit, which received some improvements from the last film, including a zipper so Keaton could finally pee while wearing the Batsuit. Every guy's dream.
Number 7, baby. Number 7.
Much like the first film, Batman Returns was heavily shrouded in secrecy by the studio. The art department was required to keep their office blinds permanently down, and the cast and crew had to carry around photo ID badges in order to get anywhere near the sets. An entertainment magazine managed to leak the first ever photos of Danny DeVito as the Penguin, which prompted Warner Brothers to hire a private investigator to track down the source of the leak, and to presumably murder them.
You wanna know a secret? It's number 8.
The film's climax sees a small army of penguins with rockets on their backs, marching through Gotham and preparing to bomb the civilians of the city. So, just like your average Saturday night in Gotham then, eh? King penguins were flown over from a bird sanctuary located in the Cotswold deep in the English countryside to the United States, where the scene was being shot on a soundstage. To ensure that the birds were comfortable, the production had the penguins flown over in a refrigerated hold of the plane. When they arrived, they were given their own refrigerated trailer and their own swimming pool. They were also given half a ton of fresh ice and were also supplied with fresh fish every day taken from the docks.
That's a lot of fish.
Even the set itself was lowered to a temperature of 35 degrees. The penguins even had bodyguards to ensure their safety. Despite the production attempting to make the penguins as comfortable as possible, animal rights groups still protested when they found out that the birds were going to have rockets strapped to their backs. Fake rockets. But they still kicked off. Richard Hall, the curator of the penguins, came out to reassure people that the penguins were being very carefully looked after. However, this scene of marching penguins did not consist entirely of real penguins, but instead was a combination of real penguins, CGI penguins, and men in costumes. Penguins look happy to me. Look at that face. Now that's the face of a happy penguin. And just to compare, here's the face of an unhappy penguin. I mean, the difference is night and day.
Good heavens, number 9.
Batman Returns would be the last Batman film director Tim Burton would be attached to. Moving forward, Warner Bros. Decided they wanted to go for a more family-friendly film for the third Batman movie in order to appeal to a larger audience. Burton, however, had no interest in returning, having been barely motivated to return to this film unless he was given almost full creative control. Instead, Burton became attached to a new project, a Catwoman spin-off film. Daniel Waters wrote the script for the film, which would see the return of Selina Kyle, now suffering from amnesia after the events of Batman Returns, and embarking on a whole new storyline featuring several superheroes who eventually turn on her and reveal themselves to be antagonists. Michelle Pfeiffer was attached to the project and set to reprise her role. The film itself was keeping to a much darker tone, unlike the shift Warner Bros. Had decided to go with for their main Batman film franchise. However, the project remained in pre-production for a while. Eventually, Tim Burton began expressing hesitation with being the director for the project and eventually decided to leave. The film continued to stay in development hell for many more years. Eventually, Pfeiffer was replaced with actress Ashley Judd, who was also replaced later down the line with Halle Berry. Yes, that's right, that spin-off movie became this movie. And we all know how that turned out.
I say, old chap, it's number 10.
Batman Returns had a much darker tone than the previous film, and as such it took some critics by surprise, with some of them complaining about how violent and dark it was. Despite that though, the film was largely praised by many critics, and it currently sits on everybody's favourite review site Rotten Tomatoes with an average score of 80%. Batman Returns got itself a comic book adaptation simply named Batman Returns. Of course. I mean, what else are you going to call it? And of course, this was the time when big movies were guaranteed to get a video game adaptation, and Batman Returns was no exception. Batman Returns, the video game, was released on the SNES, the NES, and the Sega Genesis, or Sega Mega Drive. And I'm sure, like most games back then, they were probably infuriating to play.
Oh, you fuck.
Well, there you go, 10 facts about Batman Returns. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, then why not give it a like, as it really does help me out a lot. And I will definitely be going through the rest of the Batman films in the future, so if you don't want to miss out on that or anything else that happens on this channel, then why not consider subscribing and hitting the bell thingy to stay notified. And while you're at it, why not check out our other Film Facts videos? They cover both film and TV. But you know what? Thanks for watching.